What's up, guys? Welcome back to the WRPF podcast. I'm your host, Alex Uslar. Episode 37, first show of the new year. 14 weeks out from the Ghost Clash, we got Angelina Bennett. If you guys don't know who Angelina is, I was shocked when I saw how low your follower count, considering how goddamn strong you are, how many pro level meets you've done. Angelina's ranked 22 all time for women. Number 3 in the 123 weight class, which was at one point that crazy class. Mariana, Steffi going head to head, those kind of glory years of female powerlifting on the up and up, which I'm sure we'll dive into and we'll talk about. But being number 3 behind those women, I'm sure that's something that's very, very cool for you. Competing in sleeves, competing in wraps. Something I found interesting when I pulled up your open powerlifting, 5 amateur comps, and then boom, straight into pro level comps, nothing but pro back to back. Welcome to the show. I'm excited to chat, excited to hear your history. Thanks for hopping on.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So just give us a little intro about you. Before you got into powerlifting, what were you doing? I know you're a mom, you have a
Yeah.
child. So
hmm
just give us a small little synopsis.
I didn't do any lifting. I mean, I did like weight training in high school. That was my only like background. And so I had my daughter when I was 21. And then how old was I? I think I was close to 20. Yeah, no, I was 24. And I was at the gym because I got fat. And so I lost weight. And I was squatting one night, and one of the kids at the gym was like, "Hey, you're really strong. You should do powerlifting with us." And I was like, "What's powerlifting?" And then they told me, and then I signed up for my first meet like 3 months later, and that was it.
So before that, before your daughter, before college, my wife, when I told her I was having you on, she said you look like a gymnast. Did you do gymnastics, anything like that?
No, I didn't. I didn't do the only thing that I did in high school was marching band.
No shit.
Yeah, I did. Now I did weight training because it was a class, right? But yeah, no. But then I always like grew up so um like my stepdad, like he always did outdoor work. So I always helped with like moving 80-pound things of concrete. We had chickens and horses. So we always moved 50-pound bags of feed. So I wasn't like not strong. Do you know what I mean?
You had the farm strong.
Yes, the farm strong
It's
thing.
funny. You're from Maryland, and I think Zach Myers, I had him on, and he's from Maryland also.
Yeah.
And same thing. He told me that was his background, that was his roots. But I find it super interesting because so many of the high level, pro level powerlifters I've had on the show who I know had some kind of sports background that they did all throughout high school. You were a band geek,
Yeah, yeah.
and now you're one of the strongest women of all time.
Yeah, it's really weird. People that know me from high school, they're like, we would have never known. And I was like, me neither.
I love it. That's so cool. So when you said you did weight training in high school, that was a class, an elective you did. Were there other
Mhm.
people in your family lifting weights, or just kind of just like recreational like that?
Yeah, no, it was always just recreational. Now, when I was little, my mom always went to the gym, and like she went to an all women's gym. So like they let me do like a little aerobic thing, and I had like a little aerobic step. Like, it was the 90s, so it was like all aerobics, but no one lifted like weights like what I do. Do you know what I mean? So weight training I just did because I was like, oh, you can lift heavy weights. But I was one of the stronger girls in weight training too. So it was just, I guess, always my thing.
So you had your daughter at 21. Were you in college? What do you do professionally?
I don't do anything like my career is not like it's not cool.
Okay.
But yeah, I was in college. I did have some, but yeah, but that was about it. So I had her, and then it was just, you know what I mean, single mom life.
And then started feeling fat, started going to the gym.
Yeah, yeah,
It's crazy because so that era, according to Open Powerlifting, you said you were 24, so that was
yeah,
2017. Powerlifting was already very much on the rise through social media. But you were completely unaware of it. You just knew what you knew from going to the gym historically, like you did years back.
yeah. So I didn't have an Instagram so I started Instagram because of powerlifting because they were like, oh, well, you can have a place where people can watch your lifts. I'm like, who wants to watch my lifts? Like, no one wants to watch. And so that's how I got. And then that's when I started following everybody. So yeah, I had no idea, like zero idea.
So what did your training structure look like? It just was barbell machines, that you weren't following any of like these resources online, like looking at any of that stuff early on?
No, I always had some kind of weird program. I either went on bodybuilding.com, or when I went with them, they had some kind of template that they gave me. And I won't forget this template. It was always like a bunch of like 10 sets of three, or like a 6 by 6 day. And it was squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press. So, but then,
Those rep schemes are very Smolov-ish. I don't know if you
yeah,
ever heard of that
yeah.
program, but around that time,
We followed that program one time too.
that was so popular around that time when there was just like a handful of templates. You followed Smolov, you followed Wendler 531, you followed starting strength. There were just a couple of the basics, and then all those other forums like T Nation or bodybuilding.com had some kind of bastardized mix-up
Yeah.
version of
Yeah.
those roots. And it's crazy how far now it's like powerlifting is either super scientific or all over the place in RPE, but back then it was just crazy shit like that, or super
Yep.
super simple shit like starting strength and just doing 5x5s.
Yep. So,
So
and
what kind of gym were you training at? Was it like a powerlifting gym? Was it a Globo gym? These people found you. They're like, dude, you're strong. What the fuck are you doing?
I work out at the same gym actually. So I work out at a Gold's Gym, a commercial
Okay.
Gold. I still do. Now, I did my last prep. I did start going to Exile, which is like a big bodybuilding powerlifting gym when I was closer, but either way, I still go to my commercial gym now. It's just they have powerlifting equipment now. Like it's not bad. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you, Gold's gyms were such a gem for years and years and years. And I don't know how or why. I guess just the gym space getting more saturated, more specialty gyms, whatever it is, and then just such a low membership cost. Because there
Yeah.
used to be so many throughout South Florida down here, and now there's not a single one. So it's cool that
Yeah.
there's still one holding on like that. So
Uh,
people at your gym approach you, they tell you about powerlifting, they tell you to sign up for a meet. So what did that look like? Powerlifting in Maryland's very popular. It's very big. There's always a lot going on, I'm sure there. You created the social media. Kind of give me more of that timeline in 2017.
yeah. So actually, my first meet was in Virginia. We had to drive to. It was an RPS meet. We signed up, and I was no knee sleeves at the time because I was like, knee sleeves are for the weak. You know what I mean? We sign up, and yeah, I went, and I think I squatted. I squatted 240. I benched 130, and I deadlifted 295 with like 3 months of training. So like I thought I was so strong. Like there was nothing you couldn't tell me.
Well, honestly, for a local level at that time, like I said, female powerlifting was on the up at that point, but it wasn't as big as it is now. So for sure, I mean, to pull almost 300 pounds as a 120-pound woman, not too shabby, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought I was way too cool. And then like I think we did one like 4 or 5 months later. And then it's so funny because like all of them like dropped off. I'm the only one currently powerlifting out of that group. And then I was the only one to take it like this serious. Like everyone else just kept on competing. I mean, there's nothing wrong with competing at RPS or local level. If it's not your thing to go pro, then it isn't. Do you know what I mean? But I'm the only one that like took it to the moon. You know what I mean?
So what did that look like throughout that first year from December 2017 to December 2018? Three total competitions before a little bit of a break till end of 2019. So you found this group of people. At this point, you called yourself a power lifter. Were you following a more structured programming? Did you have a coach? What did that look like?
No, I didn't get a coach until before my first pro meet. So I stayed by myself until what, 2020. And then I don't know, I just kept on doing either like I would like cycle the same programs. And then I got to the point where I was just like, I probably need somebody. And then yeah. So then I got a coach.
I love it. So we jumped through those different meets. You're making progressions. At what point did you start realizing that, damn, I might be pretty good at this? I mean, like you said, you were taking it serious out of the group of everyone there, competing, those 3 times in that first year, then a little bit more spaced out, 2019, 2020. When was it like kind of like a light bulb moment?
I think it was my meet in 2020. I did that one. I think my my Wilks or Dots or something or whatever it was at the time was like 460 something. And then I saw the hybrid meet pop up and I was like, I qualified. And I like barely, I think it was 450. I was like, I don't care if I'm in the 460s. I'm like, I'm going. And so I went and I'm so mad because even though I had a coach at that meet, if I would have watched like the things, I could have placed top three at the first one. Like if you go in and look, I'm number four. And I didn't even have to be stronger. I just would have had to take less on third attempts. Cause like I was used to like RPS type of thing where I was like, oh, third attempts, you ball to the wall, right? I
Right.
literally that computer in the back and been like, oh, I just have to take this and it would just take me there. Do you know what I mean? So I guess it was at that moment I'm like, oh wow. And then of course, like that like missing out on that meet that I felt like I have, right? I still haven't got over it. Um, I was just like, oh, I guess we are pretty good, you know.
So that meet, Hybrid Showdown, that I founded that meet. I ran it one, two, three. Third year was the last year that I ran it. And you're
Yeah.
right, the 450 dots to qualify, or Wilks. I'm sorry, I used Wilks at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
We sent out some rounds of invites first. You didn't get an invite. You just were a matter of it was fast registration, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Fast registration. Yep.
That's right. That's good. That's good. That's funny that you say that because I honestly I didn't know your name until later on. So even at that meet, even though you were fourth, I just knew who first, second, and third because I was the one writing those checks at
Yeah.
the end of the meet. You know what I mean? So that must have been a really kick in the butt kind of moment, but also a big learning lesson from going from amateur to pro. You don't necessarily think about the money. You think about how can I improve my numbers? Where can I be at?
Yeah.
And then you can start seeing that little data.
Yeah. And then plus, like, I mean, I was handling myself at that meet. And like when you're around people that you've only seen on Instagram, you're like, oh my God, this is weird. Do you know what I mean? Like you're just used to seeing just local level people, not these people that I've only seen for the past 4 years on Instagram. You know what I mean? Just really different.
I mean, I freaking even had Juji Mufu there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Changing singlets every time. Yeah.
oh yeah, it was a party. It was a
Yeah.
ton of fun. So I mean,
Yeah.
that was a fantastic meet to be
It
your
was.
first exposure to a pro level meet. At the time, going through those years that you were competing, it was, Boss of Bosses, Kern, Hybrid. I started it in 2018. Then you can make that goal. You realized you qualified because some of those other meets, it was invite only,
Yeah.
able to do it. So that really helped initiate the fire, huh?
Yes, that was the first one. And then after that I was like pro meets only, with my little chip on my shoulder or whatever.
So
So
take
yeah.
me then going into that next pro meet, Bucked Up Showdown, right?
Yeah.
Still 123. How was that meet for you? Again, you looking at the rankings, as an amateur, 460 dots, whatever that equated to Wilkes at the time, because I was more looked at, was
Yeah.
nothing to throw a stone at. So it's like you earned your place to go
Yeah.
hybrid showdown, and then kind of you start seeing whatever's coming up next, and that next one was the showdown. That was the first showdown meet, which always caused confusion with the hybrid, that was supposed to be out in Buffalo or whatever the hell, and they moved to Kansas, right?
Yeah. And I think I mean, I did fine. I didn't place at that meet, but I mean, my dots went from, so it was 467 to qualify for hybrid. It went to 507 dots for your meet, the hybrid meet. And then I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it went to like 540 at Missouri, I think. It was like big jumps. So
I think Missouri was they strictly sent out invites based
mhm.
on the ranking, or it was your ranking only for that current year or something like that, which I think
Yeah.
caused a little bit of like not uproar, but issues because people were like, fuck, there was a whole year of no competitions. But
And so
competing at the hybrid is what gave you a huge advantage because that was one of the few opportunities to hit whatever it was needed for that meet. But that's crazy. You hit 539 dots there, and that still didn't even podium you when before that you were so close to it because again, that pro level was just rising, 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 and it was a matter of who was where.
yeah, and that's still the case now. You're just chasing like now in like the rap world, right? Girls have to get like a 650 dots to place, if not 660, depending on who's there. And in rap, I mean, in sleeves, you got to get a 600, and that's minimally. Do you know what I mean? Like every year it just goes up, and it's mind blowing because I'm like, 3 years ago I could have dominated. I could have like killed everyone with this dot score. Do you know what I mean? It is.
Yeah, it's wild. So then take me through that. So then Hybrid Showdown 3, Bucked Up Showdown, Hybrid Showdown 4, right? You chose to do that. You did that raw. Those
Mhm.
three meets were raw. Before that, when you were doing RPS, it says wraps. Is that correct? You were doing wraps and RPS?
No, they were all sleeve. They just so what if you saw just
It's freaking ridiculous how it does that.
yeah, yeah.
I think they've since now changed it because people
Okay.
were like, "What the fuck? You put me as wraps to compete in sleeves?" You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Since now they've changed it, but yeah, that's confusion in open powerlifting. So you were raw. That was all you knew. And
Hmm.
then even though the days of more wrapped lifting were a couple years back when it was wrapped only meets like the US Open and stuff like that. Although I think on the female side now, the last like year, it's made a big comeback.
It
But
had.
going into the American Pro, you decided I'm going to become a wrap lifter. So how and why did that transition look like?
I wanted to win because like I was like, you know what, there ain't a lot of rap girls. Like my chances go up a little bit. Like, and then at this point, I'm like, my raw squat was just for me in my mind. I was like, it's stalling. Like I just need to see a bigger squat. And so yeah, and then that was my first pro meet that I won. I placed third, the first American Pro. So in wraps.
Well, just if you guys are listening, not following along, just to give you some figures, it fucking worked because
Yes.
you went from, in January of 2022, Hybrid Showdown Raw squatting 374 to then literally just 7 months later at the American Pro squatting 440 in wraps. So
Yeah,
you were one of those lifters that wraps were just like, boom, it clicked and
it
it
did.
added a lot to you.
Yes. It was, I don't know. I still love wraps, even though I'm taking a break for this. Like, it's just like, I hate squats, but like when I get in wraps, I'm like, oh, this just feels nice. Like, you just, I don't know. It just makes sense to me.
So how did the change look in your training? You had, a big enough block between Hybrid Showdown 2022 to the American Pro. You put them on, it clicked right away, or was one of those kind of learning curve things? How long did you prep in them? That's something that I know it varies for a lot of people.
Um, so I think for that one, we prep for 4 blocks, but then after that, like, we're pretty good in like 3 that I can do. But yeah, literally, it was so my coach lives close to me. So I met him one day. He showed me how to wrap. And then I mainly trained by myself. So after that, it was me wrapping myself. Like I'd meet him like maybe once a month, once every 6 to 8 weeks. Until then, like I think we only met 2 or 3 times before the American Pro. So that way he could show me what a tight wrap is. Because of course, you wrapping yourself, you can only get so tight. But yeah, no, we just did it on. So I always have a SBD day. So I was just training in wraps once a week, and that was it.
So leading up to the American Pro, you're self-wrapping, and then at the meet, he wrapped you.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, and that didn't fuck you up at all, huh?
No, it felt great. No, every time, and even like now, so like the other 2 meets that we've done, right? I think since then in wraps, like that's just how it is. I can't wait for that day when I know a bee's gonna wrap me. I'm like, yes, like it's a different, and like I don't. I'm one of those people who like I don't care about the tightness. Like the tightness does not bother me. Like I feel like when I get older, I'll do equip lifting because I don't care about like pressure and like tightness. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, once he wraps me, I'm like, yeah, you can load anything you want on the bar. Like I'll squat it. I don't care.
That's funny because that's how my wife was like 5, 6 years ago. She wanted to do raps. I put them on her. I'm just like staring at her, like, you sure? You
Yeah.
sure? And I just start going cranking them. She's like, ooh, this feels nice. I'm like, dude, you're weird. There's not
Yeah.
people who are like that. Most people are cringing. And I
Yeah.
mean, women, and especially you're a mom, you know what I mean? So it's like
There's
that.
no
Oh, knee wrap pain, no problem. It makes me stronger. It's cool, right?
pads. That's all I thought. I'm like, you know what? I can load like close to 450 on my back. Yeah, sign me up. I don't care.
I love it. So I'm curious because there obviously can be a correlation with when you self wrap versus when you're wraps to by someone else, and it obviously helps the peak.
Yeah.
What was your heaviest wrapped self wrapped squat or prep squat leading into that first American Pro where you squatted, a 70-pound PR?
If I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was 420. 420 was the heaviest that we took. And me and my coach were very, very good. We haven't had yet, knock on I don't have anything to knock on. But everything that we do in training, we can beat by like 20 pounds on the platform. Like the way we peak is just fabulous. He tapers me and peaks me A1. So yeah, I think it was 420 before that. That's why I was so surprised at that 440 because I was just like, I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
That I
So
mean, having that someone else wrap you, and again, it comes down to that peak and that taper and how you're training.
yeah.
So then, okay, after the American Pro, boom, pretty much, a good. Our goal with all those meets are having them spaced out. It goes straight into Ghost Clash 2, right? So what changed from that? You decided to stay in wraps. You kind of kept things the same going into that meet. At the American Pro, did you place in the top three? The first one?
Yeah, I was number 3. I was really fun because at that meet I had a pool to beat Naomi. So she had pooled, and then my coach was like, "Hey, we're gonna add 11 pounds to your third attempt," and I was like, "That's fine. I don't care what we need to pool." And like we pooled it, and like her coach ran around and had to change her attempt, and then I'm standing there like, you don't want to wish ill on no one, right? I was like, Lord, it's me again. I just want to place third at this meet, so please just do me a solid. And she didn't pull it, and there I was, and I was like, damn.
And that was alone a 26-pound deadlift PR just from earlier this year, also. So it's like your total and your dots didn't just get boosted from that, from the
Oh
wraps.
yeah,
Full
oh
went
yeah.
up like a motherfucker, too. You
Mhm.
broke into the 600-pound dots for the first time. That was a huge deal.
Yeah, that was the goal. I was like, we got to get to 600 dots, man. Like, that's just, if we're putting on wraps, we got to do it. And we ended 602 at that meet.
That meet, that performance, I think is definitely what put you on the map with
Yeah.
pro powerlifting, and people would be like, "Oh shit, now there's someone else that I have to look for and someone else I have to watch for." I mean, I remember leading into the American Pro, I was looking at rankings and looking at different people, and you see, a 544 dots. Like years ago, that would have been holy shit, right? But now it's like, oh, I don't have to worry about that person.
And
Be
it's,
like, hey, it's me.
yeah, yeah. It's really sad. Like, because it's like so much work goes into it. And so much work goes into it. Like, if you look at pound for pound, Wilks versus Dots, right? So, like, 123-pound lifters, like, have to total more pound for pound to get the same dots as a 165. And if you put in their Wilks, they're like, so like their dot score will drop 10 to 20 points if you go from like dots to Wilks. So it's just like for little people, especially, like, I don't discredit nobody, right? Because like, I mean, nobody still knows who I am. But whenever I see that, like you said, I'm just like, oh, I am 60 points ahead of this person. Like, wow, this is
And it's crazy because that also just shows how powerlifting is always changing, evolving. And because years ago, things would have been so fucking different. Like when we talk about those years of Mariana and Steffi and completely dominating, with the exception of like Cece and stuff like that, who was also bigger and behind and keeping up with them. Uh,
Mhm.
you know, who's to say how things would have been different back then if things were all by dots then, or how they'd be now if it was still Wilkes, you know?
Yeah, I would love to see that. I just want to have a Wilkes meet one day. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, if there's ever a Wilkes meet, I'm gonna dominate. Like, I'm just gonna show up and just, I'm gonna place first. Do you know what I
Well,
mean?
I'm going to shout out my boy Jordan Wong down here in Florida. He does run like a local level meet, but he gives away like 5 grand to the top lifter, and he still does it by Wilkes. And Shane Holler, this was literally at the meet was 2 3 weeks ago or something like that. Shane Holler
Mhm.
and Chad Penson competed, and they
Yeah,
went head to head. And again, Shane, since it was Wilkes, had the big boy advantage that he doesn't usually have, and
yeah.
pushed out Chad, where if it would have been Dots, it would have been completely different.
Mhm.
So, okay. So then leading into Ghost Clash 2, improve your total, improve your performance, second place, right? Second place in wraps, second to Denise. And again, that's where it's like over this last year, things have just flipped so fucking much more. Because literally, if you just look at, you know, 2023, the year that just passed us by,
Mhm.
before that, a 610 to 620 dots won you anywhere. And then
Yeah.
now, literally the last 16, 18 months, it's like 650 or get the fuck out, like what you just said.
Yeah. Yep. It's literally 650 or bust. Like, if you can't, and like, that's another reason why I think I'm gonna just do sleeves for a little bit. Cause like, Wraps are very good, and I believe that you could probably train in wraps, but you got to build your raw squat before you build that. Do you know what I mean? Like at this point, it's like I need to get my raw squat up.
So then, yeah, Ghost Clash, you competed in wraps. Again, the American Pro, you competed in wraps. Still improved the total, still improved the dots points.
Yeah,
Present day, right?
yeah,
Leading up to the Ghost Clash 3. You're on the
yeah.
roster in wraps, so you're still competing in wraps for that?
Oh, I thought they put me on sleeves.
Let me check. I have that because I literally right before we went live, I went and looked at that. I have you as wraps. Do you want to
That
change that? Are we changing that?
exactly because I've been training in sleeves.
Well, good thing I asked. We'll change that right now. Good to
No,
know. So you are
that's
making your essentially
my debut.
debut because it's been so long. So much has changed. So much has gained since then. Back in sleeves.
Yeah, my last recorded was 374, so I really hope to blow that out the water.
So leading into this meet, you said you've already been you training in sleeves. It's going well. What are some goals that you feel comfortable talking about leading into the meet?
Yeah. So the most I've squatted in sleeves, which was about 2 years ago, was 405. And it wasn't death. So and it was unpeaked. It was just at the end of a block because my coach, we do four thing blocks, 4 week blocks. And so it was just another block and I hit 405. So I would be comfortable to say, hopefully, that I would hit anywhere from 418 to 424. So the goal is the 600 dots in sleeves, which I think if I hit anywhere from 418 to 424, even if my bench stays the same, so I just benched 270, and then deadlift, the most I've done is 462. So if I maintain that, I'm pretty sure like if the numbers add up correctly, will give me a 600 dots.
It's so crazy how it changes from sleeves to wraps because then you switch it over to raw and only the top 10, exactly the top 10 women have hit a 600 pretty much on the dots, right?
Yeah.
So if you just get a little bit above 600, that puts you top 8 all time. You get
Yeah,
closer to your current dots, it puts you closer to top 5 all time, right?
exactly. Same. So it's just we're just hoping. That's all I want. 600 dots in sleeve. That's all there is.
So we gave that rep or that range for squat. What about bench? I know recently at the American Pro, bench was like a big breakout for you, hitting a massive fucking PR on that, right?
Yes, finally. I think it was like 2 years coming. I was stuck at 248 and I had a bunch of forearm issues. So like literally like as I would be coming down in bench, it would just feel like someone snapped a muscle in my forearm and it would just crash at the bottom. So we finally, I guess, strengthened that. I had a job change. So then I got my 22-pound PR. I'm not expecting another major PR just because that was a huge one in bench. So, but I would like to see two reds in competition. So that's the goal. So whatever two reds, I think it's 280 or something.
Two reds in a collar, 275. You only need 5 more pounds.
Oh, well then, yeah, that's my goal.
Let me guess, you don't train in kilos.
I do not.
Okay,
So
fair. You have a get out of jail free card then in that case.
yeah,
I'm literally like a Rain Man with numbers, and before powerlifting, I was in Olympic weightlifting and stuff like that. So
all
I'm known. I'm usually that guy. I remember I used to go to local level meets,
yeah,
and they were always fucking up at local level meets, and I'd be like Rain Man looking at the weight on the bar beforehand, and the amount of fuck ups that I caught at meets. It's they used to love me for it, but they also used to get embarrassed as shit. But it's like, well, at least people didn't get screwed up.
exactly. And they're not misloaded and they're not 20 pounds over and they might get their attempt.
Exactly. And then what about for deadlift?
Deadlift, I would like to hit 468 because at the American Pro, that was my third attempt and I got it above my knees. And I just was like, it ain't here today. So I would just like to anywhere 468 plus, you know what I mean?
And I love that mentality of literally what you're looking at. It's all like super realistic. And that's how
Yeah.
you have to be. You have to figure out how to piece things together realistically. Because although you've been doing this for a very short time, you climb to the top very quick. And once you're there, things are a little bit slower and steadier. And the name of the game, staying healthy and
Yeah.
just stacking the chips as needed, right? Throw
Yes.
back to that huge learning lesson from the first hybrid showdown, right?
Yes, after that one, it's just like you just take what is there because a 5 pound PR or just a baby turtle PR, somebody else might not. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, like at the American Pro, I wasn't the first one. I wasn't expecting to place top three because of the people who were there. And I think Naomi had just came off a ghost class from you. So I was like, well, she's gonna come up in here and just, you know what I mean? But it like she did a great performance, but I still beat her that day. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't know what people are going to bring to the table. You don't know what injuries they're lagging. And as long as you can just beat yourself by this much, somebody else might not be beating themselves by that much, you know?
Exactly. And I mean, it comes down to you want to be smart about it because although that you're there for fun, you're there to better yourself and better your numbers and what you're capable of. You don't want to lose out on money. No one doesn't want money and doesn't want to go to the competition and have only spent money when you can go home in the green, right?
Exactly. And so for the the one that just happened, like I knew I was just going there for fun. And like luckily it was a close meet. But this one I was just like, if I complete sleeves, I might have a good chance. So
Hell yeah. I love it. I love it. So looking beyond the Ghost Clash 3 coming up, right?
mm,
What are some longer term goals? Getting back in wraps, staying in sleeves, exceeding your current, dots and sleeves. What are you thinking beyond this? 'Cause you're 30, you're still young, right?
yeah. Oh, so of course I want to do bodybuilding eventually. Do you know what I mean? Like I take pride in the way I look and I diet myself the way I do. And I look decent when I cut down. So I
You're
always told my
jacked as shit, dude. You're friggin' ripped and jacked, 100%.
it's because I'm telling you. So people are like, "Oh, what's your secret?" And like, sure, I have a coach, right? And sure, we do SBD, but like, I would say a solid 75 to 80% of my training days, and I work out 4 days a week, is accessories. I bodybuild 75% of the week. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think anybody understands that. And like a lot of my little aches and pains that I did have, like went away from like strengthening little muscles. So everybody says little muscles don't. And like you used to get kind of like made fun of for being jacked in powerlifting. But now if you look at all the top tier powerlifters, they're sorry, that's my dog.
You're
If you
good.
he hears me talk. But anyway, all the top tier powerlifters now look like they could be bodybuilders in like 16 to 20 weeks. You know what I mean? So that's a long term. I would like to, of course, squat 500 in reps, but I don't know if I'm that good of a squatter. Do you know what I mean? And of course, I love to pull 500 because that's just like, you know, I've seen too many 123 girls do it. Elena's done it. Steffi's done it. I'm not sure if Mariana done it, but there's still a handful.
Her grip was always her issue. Yeah, I think 474, maybe 485. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, but of course, like I've seen Yelena do it, so I'm just like, you know what? I just the one day that has to be in my hands. You know what I mean?
What about weight class restrictions? Do you feel restricted in the 123 class? Like you said, you got your cut down, you're super lean. Do you ever see yourself going up beyond that?
Yes. So once I feel like I know this is dumb. Once I have a bad meet at 123, that's when I'll go up. That's what I told my coach because my coach has been telling me for years that I should go to 132. I was like, no, I get my ass whooped. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, dots wise, it's not worth it. So until I have a bad diet, until I have a bad cut, until I have a bad meet, I will not move up.
Fair. Yeah, I mean that's the way to do it. Just keep
Yeah.
playing with it. I mean, you have it dialed in, and I think what's super helpful is you're realistic, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like you might know you're overall stronger in your actual training, that if you weren't cutting, you'd be able to hit a 10, 15, 20 pound platform PR in an individual lift, but instead you
Yeah.
factor those things into it. You take the 5, 7 pounds, whatever it is like that, and just kind
Yeah.
of keep climbing it like that.
Yeah. As long as I go up by total, or as long as my dot score goes up with every meet, I'm happy.
Dude, I just pictured it would be crazy. Imagine if we got like the top, 5, 6 females who are at the top right now, they all did a bodybuilding show.
That would be amazing. It
That
would
would
be.
be insane. Because like you said, you guys are freaking jacked. Insane,
Yeah.
insanely jacked.
Yep, and just all the dense muscle. I mean, but look, Christy Hawkins is an IFBB pro. Hunter Henderson is an IFBB pro. Brianni Terry is an IFBB pro. So like, it's really like it's just there. It just comes with the nature of powerlifting.
I love it. I'm super excited to see when you take that. I like that it's not exactly in the cards in front of you right now, because I think you still have more to kind of keep accomplishing
Yeah.
before your body needs kind of that reset and that break or
Yeah.
whatever it is. And I think it's what you just said of how your training is probably what has you to that point where you're not really burned out and you need that refresher, because
Exactly.
it's the people who are just constantly beating the barbell, squat 2 to 3 times per week, bench 3 times per week, and it's specificity. Although it works a lot, it also could beat you down and burn you out.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's where my coach comes in. Like he's really, really good at like recovery stuff. And then I only train 4 days a week. And even though I do, so I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I squat twice, I bench 3 times, and I kind of deadlift twice. Like one's like a stiff leg day and one's like a regular day. But it's just the way he programs me. Like we've now been working together for 3 years. So like he just knows what I can handle and what I can't. Like he knows when I'm in prep, I can handle more volume or more this or more that. You know what I mean? So we just know. And then if something is starting to beat me down, we just pull back. So
I love it. Well, I'm glad to hear the body's feeling healthy.
yes.
14 weeks out till Miami again. I mean, you might as well get a Miami home. You've already been here so many freaking times, right?
Me tell you, I want to move. It's so funny you say that. We want to move to Miami like when we're older. Like we just love it. Every time we go, and then we go to like this gator park, and then we go to the beach. I love it down there. Plus, I love the warm. You know what I mean? Like where I'm at, it's cold right now. It's rainy. It's gross. Like I just want to go where it's like a nice temperature all year round, you know?
You can't beat it. And that's why, people told me, oh, maybe you should move the meat out of Miami, this, that, and the other. It's so expensive. The flights are expensive. The hotels are expensive. Well, guess what, dude? You're making a fucking sick vacation out of it. As much as I love the American Pro, venue's perfect. Being inside there is fucking perfect. Soon as I walk outside of the venue, what the fuck am I gonna do? In
Yeah.
Manassas, Virginia. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like coming to Miami is part of the goddamn sex appeal. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly. And then you make a nice vacation out of it every single year, and it's great. I love it. So
Hell yeah. Well, if you need any other new recommendations, shoot me a DM.
yes, yes.
If you guys are listening to this, tickets for the Ghost Clash just went live. Admission. We don't anticipate admission selling out. Big venue, tons of capacity. Come out 14 weeks away. Follow Angelina on Instagram. Let them know it's captain.angelina.
Yeah, yeah.
Find her on there. Follow along her lifts. Watch her prep. We'll see you in 14 weeks in sleeves. Gotta go
Inslee.
update that. Already updated on this spreadsheet. Gonna go update it in lifting cast, which no one can see yet anyway. All
Okay,
right.
good.
And I'm excited to see what you do. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was nice talking to you.
Great talking to you. And thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode of the WRPF podcast.
Thank you.